so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness which creates and animates all things. After years of exploring this awe-inspiring truth on this podcast, I'm super excited to announce that we are now going even deeper down the rabbit hole on the new late-night style consciousness-elevating talk show called Optimistic, which features none other than you, the listeners. Optimistic is taped out of the epic spaceship-esque 8-bedroom property we call the Mystic Manor that myself and the rest of the Optimistic crew now navigate reality from in Venice Beach, California. And you are invited to come experience a Mystic Manor immersion week with us. During your week-long stay, you'll enjoy unique workshops, chef-prepared meals, one-on-one time coaching and consulting with me, and even co-creating magic with me as a guest on both Optimistic and an episode of the Positive Head podcast. When I started this, my aim with these immersive retreats was to facilitate the ultimate spiritual upgrade and tune-up, so to speak, for our guests while providing them with one of the most memorable experiences of their lives. And I'm happy to say that as of this recording, every guest at the end of their trip so far has told me that they have had a profound and transformational experience at the Mystic Manor and that they definitely want to come back. All that being said, we only have a limited number of spots available between now and next July. And as of this recording, about half of those spots are already filled. So if there's any part of you that is screaming, yes, I want to come, I feel like I need to be there, go now and book a slot with me to discuss how we can put our heads together and make it happen at calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. I know for some people, there is also that little voice in their head saying, why not? I can't get off work. I can't afford it, and on and on and on. But, really, Henry Ford, I think, said it best. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And I'm confident that where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm personally committed to doing everything in my power, including discounts and payment plans, to get you here if it is something that truly feels like a huge yes for you energetically and like you're meant to be here. Once again, the link to book time to discuss with me is calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. That's spelled calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. All one word, of course. And book in some time and look forward to seeing you soon here at the Mystic Manor. All right, all you positive heads, welcome. Here we grow again. It is a magical Monday here in the studio as I record, and I am blessed to say I am flying solo today. Feels good to do that nowadays since it's a little less frequent than it used to be. Which is beautiful in its own right. All is well. Change is guaranteed, right? The only thing guaranteed in this life. And things are certainly always changing around here in my world. Currently at the Mystic Manor, so much magic has been like popping off and unfolding. It's almost overwhelming to keep up with it all. Quite honestly, the Mystic Manor is sort of like full-time living at Burning Man. Any of you have been, if you could imagine that, that's what it feels like. All the magic and all the intensity to go along with it, which isn't always the simplest. But last week we had a really amazing group of retreat guests, immersion guests here at the Mystic Manor. And one of the things that happened was a really cool story of synchronicity that unfolded with me and one of the guests. And it tied into a story I'm sure I've shared. If you go, probably several years ago in the archives of the podcast, I've shared this story of angelic communication and 444, like the supposed angelic frequency that angelic entities communicate through. And I know I must have shared this story at the time when it unfolded several years ago. And it's sort of like a new chapter of it unfolded this week with one of the guests. And so I thought, you know what? It's been a minute since we've had story time with Brandon. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. An inspiring story, an angelic synchronistic story, if you will. And what I'll do is I'll just go back to kind of recapping where it all began with this 444 frequency that is a big part of it. So there's a book called The Messengers by, if I remember the name, G.W. Hardin, Hardin. I think you can actually download it for free on his website. My friend Nick knows the author of the book and had introduced me to G.W. Hardin. We actually talked about him coming on as a SoulShare guest, and I can't remember why it didn't quite align. But anyway, this book, The Messengers, okay, it basically is a guy who claimed, he was doing hypnotherapy, and he claimed to go into a past life as Paul the Apostle, who's one of, Jesus's apostles, right? Spent all of this time very closely connected to Jesus Christ. The guy who actually, is experiencing this recollection through hypnotherapy was I think he lived in the Northwest, a successful businessman. He was really reluctant to even put the book out because, a lot of people probably wouldn't believe it. And, what's interesting for this kind of thing for me is I believe, it's all one, right? So whether he was actually him or not, at some level, I believe we all were Paul the Apostle, have been, will be, it's sort of degrees of separation, I think, since we've played any and all characters. But that's a whole nother podcast, my theory on how that all works. But so his experience, nonetheless, laying, while in hypnosis, over 6 months, he documented, someone else documented, G.W. Hardin, the author, documented his recounting of what it was like to actually be with Jesus back in those days and what was actually said and done and the work that he was doing and his perspective, and I found the book really fascinating when I read it several years ago. And where it started to get kind of strange and interesting for me was I just finished the book. I had actually met the author of it, like I said, through my friend Nick, who's known him his whole life. And so I was telling my friend Tyler about the book one evening. I was like, yeah, this book, really interesting. The Messengers, it talks about, how Jesus, what really happened with Jesus, et cetera. And in this guy, the main guy that was recounting the life as Paul the Apostle, supposedly, at 4:44 in the morning, he would wake up with like crazy downloads, and sometimes the angelic entities would be in his room. And so when he's not on the table, recounting his life, and under hypnosis, he's actually having a lot of very wild things happen in his, today life, if you will, his modern life. And part of that was this: at 4:44, he'd wake up, all these crazy things. The electrical devices would be affected, by these angelic entities that were communicating with him. And so I was telling just telling my friend Tyler about it. And while I was telling him, they would communicate through electrical devices, according to this book. And all of a sudden, the alarm in my house went off, or the smoke detectors. So really loud, like, just as I said it. And it was like midnight, I remember. And I'm like, is someone cooking? Is something burning? I go down, no one is in the house. And I'm like, wow, that's really fascinating that this thing happened while, I'm recounting that they actually would communicate it through electrical devices. So fast forward maybe 4 hours or so, and me and Tyler are still hanging out really late that night, I remember, and someone tagged me on social media and saying something about angels or me being an angel or something with angels in it. And I'm like, whoa, Tyler, look, someone just tagged me with something about angels. As soon as I said that, the smoke detectors went off again instantly. And so, I was pretty blown away by that. It was pretty wild. So fast forward from that about, I think it was, if I'm recalling correctly, a month or two. And at the time I'm with my former partner Anna, and I have a dream that in the dream I'm in front of the cornfield I grew up in, or I grew up in. I didn't quite grow up in the cornfield, although I did spend some time there. My house is right in front of it. So in this dream, I'm standing in front of this cornfield, and I have my ex-partner on a leash, which obviously symbolic. I never really put her on a leash that I recall. But in this dream, I had her on a leash, and but I was distracted, not really paying attention. I just kind of let the leash go, and she just kind of meandered through the cornfield. And then I kind of, came back to focus, like, oh, where'd Anna go? Where's I let the leash go. She's gone. So I go looking for her. And then this blonde girl kind of gets in my way. All of a sudden, there's this she's very animalistic. She's kind of every time I try and walk past her, she would block me, and then in the dream, her and I just started embracing and kissing, and I woke up. And so what was really interesting from that symbolically, it was obvious to me the dream was very symbolic in nature. Well, a few weeks later, I went to Envision Festival. I met this very blonde, dreadlocked animal. She even had pictures on her Instagram, with her doing animal kind of she's doing some modeling and wearing animal type, setting in the woods and kind of very artistic images. So it totally was oh my gosh, this is a person for my dreams, right? And so her and I ended up connecting, and what happened from there? She really ended up being the catalyst for me and my ex-partner splitting. And at that same time, within that same week, my partner Anna had a dream about another guy as well. Well, that same weekend that I met. Bree was her name. That I met Bree. Anna met some other guy. We had an open relationship at the time. We both started seeing these other people, and that kind of ultimately led to us splitting. But I remember when Bree first came out to visit me after our initial meeting, and I picked her up from the airport, and she looked really tired. She goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted. I was sleeping last night, and these beings kept taking me out of my body. It felt like I kept being taken, and they were yelling at me you're on the 444 frequency. You're on the 444 frequency." And I have no idea what that means. And of course, I got chills because, I basically had just read this book and had that thing with, the smoke detectors in my house going out happen a few weeks before. So anyway, yeah. So this was a person that, I dreamed about, who's tied into this whole 444 thing as well, and was sort of a necessary catalyst to a split that needed to happen for me at that time. And so fast forward, that sort of was the end of the story, and it was pretty cool and pretty weird and pretty wild. And then you fast forward to last week, in walks Mia, one of the Mystic Manor immersion retreat guests, and lo and behold, on her forearm, she has 444 tattooed, and she had just had it done just a few weeks earlier because of her own experiences with it. And the significance of it to her in her own life, and had just been bubbling up, and so it was a fresh tattoo, and I'm like, oh wow, that's obviously, and I view it as everyone who comes through the doors here at the Mystic Manor, I really feel I'm very closely connected to cosmically, if you will. We have a soul contract that they're coming here to experience all the magic that this place has, all the transformation that is going on here with the people who step through the doors and, spend a week here, and them also supporting getting optimistic off the ground by doing so. So I know it's deep soul contract with everyone who comes through the door, but obviously to some degrees there's probably more connection or past life related interactions than others, right? So as soon as she comes through the door, I see that and I'm like, okay. That's really interesting. We'll see how this week goes. And as we got to know all the guests, last week, they're all so incredible and magical and wonderful. And, but I was really connecting a lot with her and really feeling drawn to connect a lot with her. And so, they show up on Monday. I think it was Wednesday night. She comes sort of bursting into my room and is kind of in tears and, kind of has this whole very personal release with me. In conversation, and we embrace, and it's like, there's there's tears, and there's like all this like very heartfelt, happy, joyful energy that's flowing at that moment. And it just ends up being like a really cool night. Everyone here, we end up kind of up the latest of any of the nights almost. And just in this very elevated state, with that being sort of the kickoff, if you will. And what was really interesting is, she then soon after this like very high vibrational sort of, connection happened in that moment, she got sick soon after. She started throwing up. And I'm like, that's, interesting. What's going on with that? Well, the next day I happened to have an Akashic Records reading scheduled by Leah, who's one of the regular optimistics around here, who's doing, she does Akashic Records readings, is among other type of energy work with the guests oftentimes when they're here. And she had been telling me for months, I want to give one to you, Brandon. And finally I'd taken her up on it, and we had scheduled it for Thursday. So Thursday, I'm telling her, last night, this thing happened. It seemed like a really powerful, I already felt connected to this person because, the tattoo, and we'd been connecting all week, and it felt like a culmination last night. And so as she was already tapping into the Akashic Records and being very intuitive, and she tapped in and she goes, oh yeah, there was actually, she goes, what I'm being shown is there was some trauma sort of between the two of you in a past life. And in that moment when you, sort of had a clearing, there was a karmic clearing in that moment, and she was carrying it all. Leah said she was carrying it all in her like this midsection sexual center kind of thing, and it was released when you all that karma stuff between you was cleared in that moment. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And she said, and so then more light could come in because that blockage is gone, and that light is really powerful, and it can sometimes throw your system, right? Like she was saying, Petra, who helps to run the retreats here, had just had a reading the week before, and during the Akashic Records reading, she had asked for an activation and upgrade, and she same thing happened to her. She actually got sick during the reading and had to go purge. So I guess this is a similar thing, but different. And she was like, there was this past life thing. You guys released it. More light came in. She got sick. That's what happened. Well, what was really interesting about this, I've been seeing an amazing being, human woman, Karen, and Karen, little did I know that last week was also doing her own clearing on her own, where she felt like she had ties energetically to past partners that were like blockages. And so she had been doing her own work on clearing them. And at the exact same time on Wednesday night, like one in the morning or whatever, that Mia started throwing up, she woke up and she told me she started throwing up because she felt like energy was moving in the same section of her body that Leah had described, that Mia's blockage was at and where it had been released for. So this energetic tie to this person that I'm actually dating, who's also working on removing blockages, at the exact same time, both of them were sick on a random, Wednesday night. And so I was just like, wow, when I learned that, like, I think I learned that on Friday. I'm like, are you kidding? That's incredible. That's just like incredible. And it just goes to show how deep the threads of connectivity go. And if something's happening sometimes, like you're getting sick for some unknown reason and you've been doing healing work or energy work, or something powerful has just happened in your world, right? That, it's maybe not necessarily like Karen went to the doctor. She's like, it was so uncharacteristic for her. She was going to the doctor because she's like, what is going on? It felt so weird, the energy moving in this section of my body. And then a few days later, she had this powerful, just ecstatic moment herself. herself, probably same thing, more light coming into her being. She was, and now in a very elevated state. So a lot of this work is going on with a lot of us. And I just thought you guys would find this story as fascinating as I did, seeing the energetic threads and connectivity. We truly are all connected, all reflections of each other. And these things, for me, it's a really fascinating thing. A lot of times we're so 3D about like, oh, I am sick, I need to go take Benadryl, or I need to go take like flu medicine or whatever it is, when it has nothing to do with that, perhaps, right? Especially those of us doing the work, working on ourselves. Anyone listening to this podcast is doing, profound work on themselves. I mean, that's what this whole thing is about, this whole journey together. So it's like the book Oneness I've read on the show multiple times, or not multiple times, one time all the way through, talks about like there's going to be things and interactions sometimes that are just, you may even get sick because there's something clearing. That's what Oneness says. You may get sick out of nowhere and you think something's wrong when really something's right, because it means something that's been blocked for a long time is moving through. It can now move on. And part of that process is a sickness that then quickly kind of disappears. And certainly, if any of you heard me reading Oneness in the past, you probably remember talking about that idea. I talked about it quite a bit, and here's a great example of it actually transpiring right in front of me, and having threads of connectivity to others that I'm, connected to. And you guys out there, some of you will probably have your own 444 moments now. I wouldn't be surprised because we're all connected. This is not just my story. This is our story. And we are all doing it. We are all up leveling. We are all clearing out all this past trauma and taking out the garbage, if you will, so that we can make more room for more light to enter our fields, enter our bodies. And it's not for the faint of heart, this work that we're doing, but it is so worth it. And I'm so proud of each and every one of you who's showing up and continuing to do the work. And it is such an honor to play a role helping, shine a light on any of these, these experiences in a way. And hopefully that inspires each and every one of you to continue on. Magic is indeed real, as my magician friend texted me just a little bit ago. And with that said, I will conclude today's story time with Brandon. For those of you, anyone who's wanting to come experience some of this mystic manor magic, this transformational portal that is happening here. I mean, literally every week is like every guest. It's funny because the guest will say, you do this every week. How? Like, it's so intense and so much energy. And it's a lot, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And for those of you who feel the call, I do still have some spots in December. And so I'd love to work something out, and I definitely would do something special for those spots because, time, it's getting close, and I need to figure out who's going to be here. And I trust exactly who's meant to be here will be here as always. And if you think it might be you, December's my favorite month of the year, honestly. I actually had a cool synchronicity the other day where I said something about like, I just want to be Santa Claus when I grow up. And like an hour later, someone referenced me being Santa Claus or something like that. And I'm like, whoa. And it was two totally different conversations. But I really just feel like that month, there's so much magic in the air, so much people in a state of, I know there's a lot of commercialism and all that, but there's also a lot of heart-opened, children in a state of wonderment and heart-open giving energy and family connection and, all of that stuff. There's so much of it on the planet. I think it creates a field that is felt. For me, it's always really felt energetically. And I just feel really drawn to December for that very reason. I absolutely love it. And so I'd love for you to come. You can schedule a time to talk with me at calendly.com/talk with Brandon, and we can figure out if it aligns for you to come and visit during the magical month of December. Also have some January spots as well. So, with that being said, I have a song for you guys. This was actually the musical guest on Saturday night's live taping, Zen Soul, and they're epic. This song is called "Living a Dream," and hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did seeing it live. You'll see their performance when it comes out on Optimistic. Till next time, love you all so much. Journey well. And if you're feeling the call to come for a week retreat-style Mystic Manor immersion, remember to go now and book your time to speak with me directly about stepping into the optimistic vortex at calendly.com/talk with Brandon while there are still spots left. Otherwise, I look forward to co-creating magic with you at the Mystic Manor.
Your spirits high when the vibe is low. Never doubt your worth in this life. Just know that everything isn't really big as it seems. People choose to believe, and I'm living a dream. Yeah, I've been looking in the mirror lately. Everything's been more clear lately. If it's not 110%, then I don't wanna hear maybe. Shedding tears made me battle what I fear daily, like losing loved ones or dying alone. Communication is important like buying a phone. I had to survive in a home where violence was shown. You drove me away and now I'm driving alone. I'm in the zone like it's time to start the fourth quarter. You end up in the circle when you cut more corners. How do you nerve receipts when you cannot afford water? It's time to make decisions like giving out court orders. Remember days when it was hard to express. When the heart was a mess, that's when you started to stress. Feeling targeted like someone's throwing darts at your chest. Your part of me's blessed, you can market the rest. Keep your spirits high when the vibe is low. Never doubt your worth in this life. Just know that everything isn't really big as it seems. People choose to believe, and I'm living a dream. Keep your spirits high when the vibe is low. Never doubt your worth in this life. Just know that everything isn't really big as it seems. People choose to believe, and I'm living a dream. Manifest without speaking a single word, all I have. Chanting silent while others look for emotions to grab. Hoping to drag thoughts, racing up in smoke. Loss of patience, something broke. College slaving for dollars, modernization. I might get my spot taken since I don't make enough. Since to you niggas, I guess our values don't make the cut. Open and deep between these views, so you lack faith and trust. Some people build a foundation and others break it up. Like the ice, maybe a ring, storming a drain. All in a blink, looking at pain, watering grief. Doing my thing, slaughter the beat. Deal with pressure successfully. Can't afford to live afraid. Overcome what held me back from decisions I've made. An oath to get better and not bitter with age. Everybody sees an issue when commitment is vague. Keep your spirits high when the vibe is low. Never doubt your worth in this life. Just know